Hi everyone, I hope you're good guy and welcome to a new video. So today's second part of my Big Time Techno to Ableton template explanation. So last week we talked about sound design composition, and today we're gonna focus more on the arrangement, the mixing and the mastering. So this track have been heavily inspired by Drumcode label, and especially one track which is from Leighton Jordani, which is called System Majority. So yeah, let's have a listen how it sounds.
Mankind has looked at climate change in that same way, as if it were a fiction, as if pretending that climate change wasn't real would somehow make it go away. But I think we all know better than that now.
So for this global arrangement idea, like I said, I've kind of followed the arrangement from this track from Leighton Jordani, and I kind of follow the same more or less. It's like, I would say 95% the same, like in the way where the breaks are and how the hats are added. Obviously the elements are different. I kind of changed that, but the arrangement idea is the same. And same, this kind of track and this track as well, it's kind of, there is no especially like one main strong lead, which is gonna really like be like in the front. It's more like a lot of elements which are together making the kind of the lead. So I've talked about it last week, but yeah, you have this scent here, which is kind of the main lead, but you have as well all of this SFX scent, and you have then as well a lot of brassy sound. And what's happening is each scent is answering to each other. One time is one playing and the other answer, and it's always like this. Mainly the lead one is the main one, and then after as an answer you have the scent one. Sometimes you have the horn, sometimes they're playing together. We're gonna see each part how it's evolved and how it changed, but that was the main idea. And the main reason why I kind of follow this arrangement is because lately I've been like in a kind of creative block in terms of arrangement. Like I always got the impression I'm doing the same arrangement, so I've been like kind of trying to study a lot of different arrangements just to kind of unblock myself and try to sing differently. And here when I created this track during the live stream, I found it was quite similar, especially the groove a little bit to the track from Leighton Jordani. So that's why I kind of follow the same arrangement. So you will gonna see, I mean, you can already see by viewing the arrangement, it's a lot of little scent shot here and there, a little bit sparse everywhere, always trying to have variation, to don't have always the same element entering to each other, like in a repetitive way. Like, for example, what I mean by it's like, so here you have your main lead, and so you see here is the on 2 and the on 4 entering, then you have the lead again, but playing with the lead B at the same time, and this time is the scent 1 with the horn 3 answering it, then after again, so it's horn 2 and horn 4. And then after here you have the scent 1, but he's gonna play a different note, and after in the combination with horn 1, and then after we move into another part where we don't have anymore the lead and we have the horn playing one after the other. So that's the global idea of the arrangement, is having like part where it will be the lead with answer response with the horn, and part where will be just like the horn playing and not the lead, because obviously even if I say there is no main idea, main lead, this one is still a little bit above the rest in terms of very like a leader, like a main element. All right, so I just wanted to explain you that, because like this you have a more precise idea of how the track has been built, and it's gonna help you understand as well that. So that was in terms of element. And in terms of arrangement, before to go like each part, after each part, I just wanna talk about the global arrangement. So you're gonna have first the intro, then you have the first break, then you have your first drop, and you have kind of a bridge. So you know, you can consider like a chorus and verse, but I call it like drop and bridge. And then you have a break, and then after you have the other drop, the second bridge, and then your final break and your outro. And you can see it's quite, for example, in the first drop, the main lead is not playing, but it's playing during the bridge, rather than on the second time. On the drop 2, the main lead is not playing, it's playing on the second part of the drop, and on the first part of the bridge is not playing, and it's playing a little bit on the second part of the bridge. So that's a lot of variation to always, even if you have the same element, it's always changing, and this way you're always gonna surprise the listener. It's not gonna be like, okay, now I know it's gonna have, this part is gonna be this lead, I know because it was already the same in the first part of the arrangement before the break. So you kind of always surprise him, and that was the idea of the arrangement and how I decided to put this synth at this moment or not. Alright, so you start just with the kick and you rumble. So it does that for 16 bar. One thing important, you have some this nice SFX to reverse end. And you can already hear the main lead, but you can see there is a low pass filter, so it's just like to kind of give a little taste to like a starter or like appetizer to what is gonna be the main lead. And you already have this weird synth which kind of gives this weird vibe and add this tension straight away from the beginning. So then we introduce the open hats. It's going this way again for 16 bar. Here we have a horn playing. It's kind of just to fill the blank because otherwise there is a big blank in the middle. Then we start to hear the noise. So here I've purposely made a long noise. Usually the noise transition doesn't need to be that long, but here again, you know, it was like kind of a blank during this part of the track and was kind of boring. That's why I decided to have a long noise SFX, so this way it's kind of keep the listener interesting. Because if you put something shorter, you have this long period of time here where nothing happening and it's kind of boring. Rather than if you extend it a little bit, it kind of keep the listener interesting. And also well, it builds the tension because you say, okay, something different is now coming. And yeah, the thing basically here, nothing changed. You can see it's exactly the same pattern here. Just like to have a longer intro, like obviously it's a DJ kind of track like where you need a longer intro, but yeah. And you have different kind of horn playing. And then again, now we're gonna move into the break. So break, you can see we have still the kick, you have a low cut to kind of cut that and make it understand that it's a break. You have a lot of element playing straight away at the beginning, you know, it's like kind of to set the start of the break. Then we have our lead playing, but it's always playing with a low cut. So the filter very low, so this way we can progressively open it and bring more tension right before the drop, like where it's gonna be fully open and it's gonna give this nice dynamic with this always growing and the sound is getting brighter and brighter. And so again, like I said, main lead, other element entering to each other. Filter opening. So you could hear like it was the filter opening on the bass line. So that's something I play with a little bit sometimes. Again, if it was, I feel like the part was a little bit boring and was nothing happening, I could always play a little bit with the bass. Obviously, I didn't want the bass to kind of steal the show, you know, like I don't want it to be the main element with a lot of variation. So it has to stay like a little bit in the back, you know, but playing some time to time with, you know, just like to kind of fill the blank and add a bit of modulation and variation, obviously. And then second part of the break, you have the vocal, which is introduced.
I believe that mankind has looked at climate change in that same way, as if it were a fiction, as if pretending that climate change wasn't real would somehow make it go away. But I think we all know better than that now.
Alright, so here the tension is built by sending the hats here, you see on the return, it's kind of the return with delay and reverb, and it's kind of adding an extra noise and washout effects which build the tension. I've done it with adding another extra layer of hats, so the hats gonna again add some noise, it just adds like some excitement, let's say, to the sound. And you can see there is a fade in. It's basically a hat loop that I've just put a long fade in, so this way you get this nice tension coming and this nice excitement coming. I've played with the cutoff, so you can see it's gonna go up and up. All right, and then just you can see like just before the drop you have like, so yeah, you can see everything has been cut, everything go up, and then just then we drop. So we drop with the open hats and we don't have any horn playing. We have this donk classic coming. So here the idea is to don't play the main lead because you already heard it a little bit here and there just before. So taking a break off it to don't be too repetitive, obviously, and you can bring it later on here during the bridge. So we're gonna go drop, we're gonna add some ride, low cut. That's something super effective that you can always do to add variation. If you want to introduce a new ride, for example, sample, just bring a little low cut, and then in the same time you drop the ride, maybe drop this kind of horn. It's kind of super brassy cinematic sound, and it just works like a treat. Again, this playing again. But you can hear that here it's playing straight away after, right after, rather than here you see it's playing different. So this way again, it's kind of changing. You can see how everything is always changing, never the same combination, because you want to use always the same element, but in a different combination to kind of not feeling that it's the same all the time. Always I use this little reverse scent, which is working well to introduce variation. All right, and then we have a low cut here, and we're gonna enter, and we're gonna go into the bridge, which is kind of the part where we're gonna hear again the main lead. So you can see here, like I said, once you have the horn 2 playing, then after you have the synth 1, between them you have the little dong. Then after you have the horn 1 playing, then after you have again the donk, and then after you have the horn 4. So this way it's always changing, always a new sound, and you don't have always the same sound repeating. So bridge is gonna drop with the lead. So again, low cut, some SFX, just to introduce things. And to give even more impact, you can see with the hat what I've done here. You had a lot of ride and close I hat. I get rid, I just keep the open hat, so this way you really get a nice dynamic. And you can see what, like I was saying, answer like synth who are answering each other. Here the lead, it's answered by a horn sound, so a low sound, and here it's more like with this high synth. So again, add variation. You have a horn coming a bit after, but again. You see here, like the horn is like a very low pass filter. It's more like subtle. And I decided to add as well the close hat in the same time, so adding variation mainly in terms of drum, and then we go into the first long break. So you see this part, the main lead is not playing. It was intentional because obviously here you can see in the break I wanted to do a little bit the same than in the first break, you know, having it playing with the filter low, and the more you go into the break, the more the filter open. You can see here the automation. That's exactly what is happening. So you slowly build this tension. So in order to don't have too much repetition, I decided to take a break here to don't play the main lead. So just like to kind of break a little bit the monotony, and then you start with the break. You don't have that much SFX at the beginning like horn, but here you get straight away off the kick, and you have the main lead playing with the filter a little bit more open. And you're gonna hear the bass as well. So here is one thing I've done I like, is like you start with very much big open, because obviously there is a big transition in terms of sound. You know, you used to have the kick, so everything was super loud and super busy. And so you open with you mainly very open filter, but then if you want to bring everything down, the tension, to bring everything down, you bring the filter down here, and then you start over from 0, and you're gonna build the tension again from 0. Because you see here you arrive in this part with a lot of element and a very rich overall sound. And obviously if you cut straight away to super low, you will have a weird transition. It's gonna be too abrupt. So if you use this part to kind of fade out, you know, slightly your sound, and then after from here you start again to build the tension back. So that's what I've done here. A lot of energy, bringing down the energy here like this, and then after here I'm gonna bring up the energy. So that's how I've done here. And then here I bring down the filter. A bit of quiet, and then okay, now we start to build the energy again, bringing the horn. You can see the filter is opening as well too. Here is the same reason. You can see it's between the two leads, so it's obviously it adds variation, but it's as well fill it the blank a little bit and keep the tension coming up and down as well. So you can hear, so it was going down and then it go up and then it go down again. So I do that. There is as well this rising SFX, which is kind of a same note, but with the pitch going high and high and high and higher. You have as well the noise, where you're gonna have a low volume and it's going up and louder and louder. So this is gonna bring tension. And yeah, we go this way, we go up until after the vocal is playing.
I believe that mankind has looked at climate change in that same way.
With that coming up.
As if pretending that climate change wasn't
Cut the
real
drum.
would somehow make it go away. But I think we all know better than that now.
Alright, so here the idea was we build the tension, and then we want like to have again the lead like playing just by itself at the last moment, at the last half bar. So we cut the drum, and then I wanted this moment where the vocal is playing just by itself. So like the last phrase basically to already don't have anymore any or drums or bass, or so this way that's what's happening. I'm gonna replay it again, and you're gonna see like at the last phrase of the speech, it's basically just the phrase, and it's kind of accentuate this tension, like everything is going up and it's going up, and then everything stop. He said the last sentence, and then you have the sense coming, and then it's drop. And that's how you build the thing. If you put everything together or everything in the same time, it doesn't work. I mean, it works, but it's not as powerful, because maybe when he finishes his speech, you might expect that it's gonna drop, but then you have this scent coming, which kind of surprise you, and then dropping. So yeah, let's listen it again.
I believe that mankind has looked at climate change in that same way, as if it were a fiction, as if pretending that climate change wasn't real would somehow make it go away. But I think we all know better than that now.
Alright, and then with second drop. So this one a little bit different. You see here I don't have drum compared to the other one. I have not all of the horn, but a lot of horn playing at the same time, really having this cinematic kind of effect, powerful, and yeah. Not that this one is, the note is longer for this one than usually what I will use. You see here they are all shorter, but for this one you wanted really to accentuate this effect, dramatic, cinematic. So that's why it's everything a bit longer. And then we continue. Again, second time I just wanted, because I really like this kind of brassy stuff, and I just wanted to have it a second time. So here the little SFX as well help a lot, kind of slamming your head, and you had some hats as well in the same time. obviously you can hear the bass is modulated. It's kind of helped, you know, like just to build tension. I use it, like I said, I didn't want this bass to become like the main element or to take too much space, like to steal the show, but using it in a smart way to kind of modulate it, to bring tension, that's how I use it. And so this way it's keep it interesting, keep it changing, but not stealing the show to the other element. And you see here I've used it as well. And then we're gonna add the ride. So here we drop the ride and we have as well the lead coming. So this is something that was different than the first drop, where you had first the ride playing and then after the lead was coming in what I've called the bridge. So here it's different. Here you have the ride and the leads coming in the same time. And like I said before, here you have the lead answering to the other horn scent and the scent, which is more in the high. So it's always changing. You can, like I already explained that, but main lead, 2 horn, like 2 and 4, and then main lead, but with the bass as well in the same time for more impact, more accent. Then this time it's playing with the scent 1 and the horn 3, and then main lead by itself as well, and then horn 2 and horn 4 playing at the same time, and then lead and lead bass playing at the same time, but this time you have this weird scent as well answering. It's even before actually, it's not even like answering actually at that point here. So yeah, that's interesting. Alright, so here is an interesting part. I call it bridge 2, but it's kind of part where we don't hear anymore the lead 2, the main lead. We just take a little bit of a break of it, and before to just listen to it again, and after being on the final break. So this is kind of you can call it no weird arrangement, but yeah, it's more kind of unusual, but it's worked well for this track. It's add variation. And then on the second part of the bridge, I decided to reintroduce it. So this way we're gonna have it for the final break, and it's kind of saying, okay, now is the last time you hear it, it's the final, it's the end. And yeah, we go in the final break, which is similar to the other break, low cut. You have this hat. You have obviously less tension building because it's the end, but it's the same, you know, half bar before, you have the synth playing, everything is cutting, and you have the main lead with answering with the high one and the horn one. The noise, which is going up and up. And again, the filter is going up, but yeah, here like you can hear that it's the end, like the way you don't have that mini element, you don't have, I didn't put any horn or stuff like that. It's like to really, okay, this way you know that, okay, now is the end, you know, it's finished, the show is finished, let's say. One thing I didn't mention here during the break as well, you see how yeah, and then after, just stay the same for 16 bar here, and then after I get rid of the hat, and then the track is finished. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, now in terms of automation and modulation, there is not that much here because obviously you already have a lot of changement with question answer, you know, like within the element. And like I said, you could see, and I explained along the track, it was the bass modulating a lot, especially to add tension. The hats during the break, automation to build this tension, this washout effect. The lead again is depending, the lead I was playing like this, you know, playing between the filter being very low So this way you have something more like in background quiet to having something a bit more open and more like in your face and explosive, let's say. So playing with these two create a lot of dynamic and allow the listener to understand, okay, when it's something quiet or when it's something like more you need to bang, you know. And obviously I use it in the break to progressively as well open the filter to kind of add tension progressively, you know, it let the listener know that, okay, something is coming, it's coming, it's coming. And here you have lead bass and horn one bass. Basically what it is just kind of an accent. You could see that as an accent, you know, like at a certain part of the track, at a certain moment, I wanted this extra impulsion, this extra kick, you know, in your face. And you could do it with the synth, probably like automation, but duplicate it and just like opening more the filter was like, it was easier for me. So that's what I've done. You can see is, for example, the lead bass is just playing during the break here. And after I decided to add variation as well on the last part of the track, so it's playing as well there, but other than that, it doesn't play that much. And same with the horn bass, is basically just playing in the second drop. You can see you don't have it here. Then in terms of horn, obviously you can have a lot of variation, especially playing with the filter. Open it, like you start with the horn playing with the low filter, and the more it's playing, the more the filter open, and it's giving a nice brassy kind of vibe. And last week I talked about it as well. Here I've done the same with the horn too. So sometimes you start high and go a little bit down sometimes, just to stay down, add a bit of dynamic, add a bit of variation. And here I've used it as well. You can see there is different kind of, maybe like more low profile rather than here. You want it to open up like this. It's a great way to kind of add variation. Then not much here, the vocal, there is no variation. This I already talked about, like the filters opening. You have the pitch as well of the LFO, which is kind of bringing this note higher and higher. And yeah, then after the mix down, it's just like the low cut. So you have this EQ here, which is basically a low cut just to cut your bass sound. It's a classic effect. And then you have this riser knob, which is kind of a wash out effect, similar to my return, but I use a little bit gently here on the break. It's gonna slightly add a bit of delay. It's very subtle, it's not something crazy. Usually I would go a little bit more, but this time I wanted to stay a little bit more subtle. And yeah, in terms of automation variation, like I already explained, it's more like about element answering to each other. So I already explained that. Now let's talk quickly about mixing. So if you're familiar with my video, you know what I'm gonna say already. I usually mix as I produce, and usually I always try to pick up the best sample who are fitting together. So like basically when I finish the track, like 95% of my mix is done and I don't have much to do. And it's usually what I do. For example, every time I will add a new element, I will make sure it already fits the mix for sure, like it doesn't overlap with another things. So that's why I usually start with my kick and bass, and then I had my hats, so I make sure that everything is at this place. And then if I add synth, I make sure that it fits well to the rest of the track and it doesn't put too much reverb. And for example, you could see, like I explained last week, but for example, with the hats, for example, you can see you have two elements where there is no even absolutely no processing. There's just sample, depending which sample bank you use, but sometimes, most of the time, the samples are ready to use and they're already processed. So you might just need sometimes some EQ if you want to remove some frequency. Sometimes it can happen. I will boost to kind of help cut through the mix. I will add a bit of saturation to kind of make it a bit louder. And that's pretty much what I do in terms of mixing. I always use these four main elements. I always use saturation to add harmonics. I always use EQ, remove the frequency I don't like, boost the one I want to kind of help the element cut through the mix and find his place in the mix. And then it's delay, either to add, delay is kind of almost sound design, like add a bit of movement, but sometimes can be helpful with a delay to kind of put it in the background, and then the reverb as well to kind of put in the space. Reverb, usually I kind of work with a kind of three-dimensional idea. So I will have like one reverb, which is gonna be like more room reverb, something very close, more like in the front. Then I will try to put my element more like a little bit further, like let's say 10 meters away from you. Kind of try to visualize a guy which is like, or object which is like just in front of you. So that's what's gonna be my room reverb. One more like at 10 meters, so a little bit further away from me, but still quite close, and then after one guy more like at 50 meter or 100 meter, and this is more like my background reverb. So I will put like things like pads, or sometimes I will put like some scent as well. I've put some scent here, like more like a bit more further. So I always set my reverb this way. I always try to don't put too much reverb, you know, because if you put a too big amount of reverb, it kind of losing clarity, and the same if you put a too longer decay, you have a long tail. So it's nice, the sound sounds nicer, but then kind of mess up your mix because you have this long tail which is overlapping other elements. So each case is different. I don't really have a rule, but yeah, I will always process this way. Obviously, yes, one thing I didn't mention is sidechain compression. This is something I used a lot to obviously leave space for the kick, is have this pumping effect as well, which is gonna give groove. So you can see here, for example, the reverb 20%, so not that much dry wet. Usually I try to stay around 30%, so sometimes a bit less. I go around 20%, like here. Sometimes I will go a little bit more if I want, like I've done, I think, with the lead, where I go until 40%, I think. You see, not a big difference, but you feel your sound, it's not dry anymore, and it's feel like more like fitting well together with the rest of the track. So when I say short reverb, it's usually under 1 second, and when I say like the mid-range reverb, it depends, can go from 2 seconds until 6 seconds. 6 seconds start to be already a little bit long, but and then after what is more than 6 seconds, then usually like around 15 seconds, or this kind of decay time is more like to put things in the background. And in that case, I will go with the dry wet a little bit closer to 50% than 30%. So that's how I set my reverb. I always use the same preset. I made a preset. I like how it sounds, and I just have to change the decay and the dry wet, and I can put my element, and it sounds good. And yeah, well, this is the same track. This is element I like. It's a delay, it's a stereo with Has effects. It's just to put your sound in stereo. If you're not familiar with Has effect, just Google it, because there is 10 million video. I'm not gonna explain this again. And yeah, you can see EQ, saturation, delay, reverb. When I was doing that, I was not lying. EQ, remove the frequency I don't like. Saturation, add some harmonics. Delay usually adds movement. And it kind of changed the space as well in the same time. So it's not just like for movement, but, and yeah, this is a Corpus. It's a preset I've made. It's a resonator device, and it's kind of an enhancer. You can see like a enhancer, like almost like a, yeah, something which is gonna add some harmonics and make it sound a little bit brighter. EQ, saturation, reverb. So you can see here for the lead, for example, it's quite a long decay time and reverb. I would usually not maybe go that far for leads. The reason why I've done this for this one is because you can see it's just playing a few notes, and then after it stops, so you don't have like not playing one after each other. And what will happen if you have like a lot of notes coming one after each other, you will have the tail of your reverb, which is gonna add for each note one on top of the other. So you're gonna end up with a very big amount of reverb tail and overlapping to each other, and resulting to something very messy. Here you just have few notes, so eventually, even if at that point you have a lot of reverb, you know that it's gonna fade in here, and it's not gonna mess up the rest. You know what I mean? You see, it's already pretty quiet. Rather than if you have something like always repeating, let's say like this. You can already start to feel, even on the stereo and everything, how it start to get a bit more messier. But again, that's depend of the track. Sometimes I will go for a shorter reverb. The thing is, as well in electronic music, sometimes the reverb give a lot of character to your sound. So the fact that you choose a shorter reverb or longer reverb, it doesn't especially mean that you want to put it in the small or large space. It's just sometimes sounds better, fits better the sound and the sound design that you've made with your synth, with a shorter reverb or with a longer reverb. So just make and choose what fits the best your sound. Just keep in mind to don't go too much with the reverb, because obviously if all of your elements you put a lot of reverb with a lot of decay, you're gonna have a very messy mix. You have to pick up some with a longer reverb and a longer decay, and let other some a bit more sharper with a short decay and a little bit less of reverb. And again, it's about if the element overlap each other as well. That's you see here, because it's a lot of question answer between the element. It's fine to have a long reverb because one is playing after is the other, and you know, it's kind of, especially you have the horn which are more in the low frequency, you have the synth and the lead. You see like these two different blue color. These are more like in the high frequency, these are more in the low frequency. So they play one after each other, but one, the tail is more in the high frequency, the other, the tail is more in the low frequency. So it doesn't overlap too much and keep your mix clear. You know, I have a thing, as I said, it's like I said, like 95% of your mix is the element you pick up and you decide to put together. If you decide to put two elements, you can have two very good elements sounding very good on each of their own, but then you put them together, it sounds bad, so don't do that. And on the opposite, you can have kind of two bad elements, which individually sound very bad, but then put them together, they sound good. So it's all about picking the right sample. Fortunately, there is no tips I can give you. It's matter of experience and as well depend what you like and what you found good or not. Vocal mixing. So here, like the phrase from the speech was not that clear, so I tried my best to kind of use the G-Ser to remove like the...
I believe that mankind has looked at climate change in that same way.
Well, you can see it's a bit too aggressive, a little bit, even if I try to reduce some of the frequency from the S here. But yeah, in the overall of the track, it's fine. I've used like compression, transient to reduce a little bit.
I believe that mankind has looked at climate change in that same way, as if it were a fiction, as if...
So yeah.
I believe that mankind has looked at...
Here I've removed, there is a kind of, because of the recording, there is a kind of a tonal...
I believe that mankind has looked at climate change.
So I reduce this, and then after I usually boost around 1 kilo, 3 kilo, and here I remove around 5 because it was the S, like I said. Here for the voice, 3 seconds, 40%, and yeah, then after it's just SFX, it's more sound design purpose. And yeah, that's pretty much for the mix. So what I said for the reverb in terms of dry, wet, and GK, it works as well for the delay in terms of feedback and dry, wet. And the more you put feedback, the longer is going to be the tail of the delay, and the more there is chance to overlap with another. So obviously with delay, you can filter, control the feedback to don't have a too long feedback, control the dry, wet to don't have a too long dry, wet amount. And yeah, that's things that, little detail that you have to be careful and can really like kind of help the mix. Just sometimes changing the filter, it can help. So then obviously, usually if you put filter delay, it's kind of for the sound design purpose. So just always be careful to don't lose as well the vibe that you had at the beginning with the delay. All right, and then let's talk quickly about the master. So without the master, sound was like this. So it sounds already pretty good without any master. So this is what I like to call homemade mastering. I always recommend someone else to do the master for you, and I don't have the room to make a proper mastering. I don't have neither the skill, but I like to call it homemade mastering because it's not good to know a little bit, just to know, to have a master like, you know, he's gonna make things a bit louder, a bit more powerful, so this way you can try it on a louder system, on a club. So utility based in mono, stereo width, nothing crazy. Let me just loop this. Grid compression, so I've been a little bit stronger on this one, but important, always use the EQ. This way you don't have the kick triggering you compression. Slow attack to let the kick pass, or at 30 milliseconds. Release, I don't touch it, I leave it that way. Or ratio at 4 because I don't want something too aggressive, but I don't want... You could have been a bit more gentle, depend of the style as well, but I usually around 4, it's good. And then what I will do usually, it's I will go down until I have 3 dB of reduction around that, and I will compensate with the makeup 3 dB, you see, and then sometimes it's clipping, sometimes no, just activate the soft clipping to have this nice distortion, but this is like kind of very subtle effect. Just bring a little bit more in the front and everything is feel a bit more consistent and solid and together. Then we have an EQ. So EQ is more like kind of to rebalance. And so here what I've done, low cut just to remove all of the low frequency that you don't especially need. I remove here. I don't know, I like to remove here because it's kind of here, you have kind of make a compromise here usually because you kind of lose a little bit of the body, and I don't know, you kind of, I don't know, I feel like you lose the body, but you gain a little bit in clarity in my opinion, so I always kind of reduce a little bit, and yeah, here is just matter of taste, I guess. Then I boost here at 1 kilo. Usually I like to boost at 1 kilo, 3 kilo, usually a frequency that works well. I put at 3 kilo. I like to put as well a little high shelf. I like to bring the all of the hats and your element a little bit back up, make you track a little bit brief, and then a high cut at 15 kilo usually. So again, it's to rebalance, depends sometimes if you want something more in the low, more in the highs, depends your taste. I like it like this, and then I will add a bit of saturation. It's very, just 2 dB, just like to make things louder basically. This you have to be careful, because if you go too nuts, it's kind of gonna modify everything, because obviously it's applying to the whole mix. And then color limiter, this is like just to add a bit of character, a bit of warmth. Let's say you have this saturation and you can choose the color I like. And usually I just have like 1 dB of I don't really use it to squash everything. It's just like, I don't know, it just add a bit of guts. And then 2 limiter, so just 2, because like this you have one, it's not like one completely cutting straight away, like it's kind of working in this softer way. Could have go a little bit more crazy to have a bit more loudness, but I found that already it's a bit loud. And then you have your mastering, and we are pretty much done. So I hope guys you like this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to grab the template, the link in the description. It's a great way to support me. Otherwise you can just like the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And thank you very much for watching this, guys. See you soon. Bye bye.